Hey all, how's it going? Well, today I would like to talk to you about why you should consider taking a road trip this summer or any time that you have availability. And one of the best trips I've ever taken was a road trip a couple years ago. I was able to go mostly across the West Coast, um, towards the Midwest. And this was first, I started in California, the Bay Area, drove out all the way up to Nevada, towards Reno, then past Reno, went up to Idaho. I think I stopped in Boise, then Twin Falls, Idaho, both amazing places. Boise, very clean city, clean neighborhood, um, college town, really nice university. If you haven't had the opportunity to go there, I would highly recommend that you check it out. Um, Very nice city. Twin Falls, Idaho, beautiful. Um, they have a couple of scenic areas where the river is flowing, as well as some waterfalls. Very mind blowing. Well worth just checking out. Lots of nice neighborhoods, customized homes, just overseeing certain scenic uh, areas. Highly recommend it. So after Idaho, then I drove to, where was it? Wyoming next, right? So got to see the Grand Tetons, where just this vast landmass near Jackson Hole. Beautiful, beautiful. Lots of animals, lots of just scenery all around, lots of camping. Well worth traveling to. Jackson Hole is known for a lot of the winter activities. So going out there to go see, for skiing and things like that. I know the Fed, our Federal Reserve Committee, they like to meet up there to do some of their annual meetings or quarterly meetings. Definitely worth visiting. A hidden treasure, right? And part of Yellowstone National Park is connected to Wyoming as well as Montana. So after I left the Grand Tetons and Jackson Hole area, I drove all the way up to where was it? Big Sky, hidden gem, Big Sky, Montana, a must visit. Just a hidden oasis in the middle of the mountains, right? Very peaceful place, high in the sky, with mountainous views, with waterfall views. Very clean town. Lots of new homes in the area. Nice little supermarket they had out there. Clean foods. Big Sky is another ski resort type of place. Very similar to like Mammoth or like Tahoe or Jackson Hole, but very, very hidden, kind of in this austere environment, just very well protected. Highly recommend if you've never gone up there. After that, I made my way through Billings, Montana. To be honest, not too crazy of a fan. Maybe I didn't spend enough time because I literally just drove through, but it reminded me of kind of downtown Sacramento during the summer. Not the most ideal place to be, right? In terms of if you're thinking of fun activities. I mean, if someone knows of any, please let me know. But so I drove through there quickly. But before, I don't remember if it was before or after, but I did stop at Yellowstone National Park. Incredible. That is a must visit trip if you ever get the opportunity to get out that way. I would just say it's a must visit trip. So many just beautiful sights to see, from the various colorations of the geysers and hot springs all across that landmass. Lots of animals, lots of wild buffalo, and there's just so many different types of animals to see there. I didn't see a bear, even though I heard other folks had seen some bears there. Didn't see any mountain lions or anything too crazy, but you're going to see your venison, right? Your deer. You're going to see, did I see a moose? I think so. I don't remember it, but incredible place to visit. Yellowstone National Park. I mean, that is probably one of the most just unique national parks that you can see in the U.S. They have this area called Old Faithful, which is this active geyser or hot spring that you see kind of explode with water every couple of hours or so, and so very unique to see. They've always said that at any moment Yosemite could blow, right? Like, because there's this active volcano, and I can see that, right? We just don't know at what point, right? You can't really forecast something like that, but you can definitely predict, which there is a difference. Right? Forecasting says, all right, you have kind of a high probability of kind of guessing when it might occur in kind of a shorter time span, versus prediction is, all right, we know based on tectonic plate shifts and seismic activity that there could be another explosion in, let's just say, another 50 years or 100 years. So yeah, they know that we're within kind of a certain time range, like, because it's been a while, and whenever it's been a long time since there's been a volcanic eruption, especially a massive one, all that's happening underneath is those hot spots are just building up, right? And at some point it's got to pop. I think of it as almost like a pimple that's about to ready to burst after building up underneath. But anyhow, nothing to worry about. Everything is fine if you go visit Yellowstone. And ideally, if you can catch it after the snow melts, which is basically mid-May, perfect timing. So early to mid-May. That's around the time I went. So after that, leaving Montana, I drove towards North Dakota. I went from North Dakota to South Dakota. Beautiful landscape. There's a couple of national parks out there. I was able to see some wild horses, some stallions, or just different breeds of horses, just in the wild, just frolicking about, prancing about. I thought that was really cool to see, and a good opportunity to just learn about the history, especially Native American history. Just get more insight into that and kind of feel what it might have been like a couple hundred years ago. I thought that was very unique. There was a couple of major monuments down in South Dakota, some national monuments that I got to go stop and see. Mount Rushmore, which is seen as a very controversial site. right? That was built up on some Native American lands. But to counter that, there was this major project done by this one guy who had invested his time and energy and got a lot of donations put in to build the, what was it? One of the major Indian chiefs or Native American chiefs, if you want to call it that. But I forgot, can't remember, but it was awesome to see that. I mean, just incredible. So many years of craftsmanship put towards that. Lots of just engineering and dedication. And it's not fully built, it's almost fully built. But definitely quite the spectacle. I think it's Crazy Horse, yeah. So Crazy Horse, which was one of the major Native American chiefs, they had designed this kind of replica of, or I guess this kind of something that was kind of representing who he was, right? And so really cool to see. Definitely worth checking out. Also, what I did like about South Dakota, cheap hotels. I think I was at the Marriott Courtyard. After taxes, it was literally maybe like $59 a night. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And when you think about it, Marriott Courtyard is pretty decent, hotel, which comes with maid service. You even had breakfast, all of that free, right? So, I mean, that was one heck of a deal. So South Dakota is definitely really an affordable place to stay. So really cool to see. After that, I drove towards, where was it? I think I went to Colorado next. Colorado, they say that it has the most, I think, national and state parks in the US. And after having gone through there, yes, I can see why that might be the case. So many just scenic areas to see. I mean, I think I went through Denver, awesome city, great food, health conscious city. I went through to Boulder, college town, high up in the mountains, very nice scenic area. Then I drove down to Colorado Springs, where the Air Force Academy is. I stopped by there. Awesome campus. If you ever have kids that decide to want to go to college, and a safe environment where it's going to be rigorous study and growth, I can see why that might be a good choice. I mean, just being on that campus, I could see and feel just excellence. So really cool to see that. And then I just drove around to other areas, other sites, deep into the mountains. I forgot the mountain range, but it was towards the northwest as I was starting to make my circle back to the West Coast. After that, I drove into, I want to say it was Utah? Actually, no. Before that, I stopped in Aspen, Colorado. Well-known ski resort town. One of the most popular ones in the U.S. Obviously, the snow had melted because I was there in May. Really nice, quaint, hidden town, up in the mountains. Really cool to see. It was actually thunderstorming when I went through, and then it subsided after a while. But I just remember it being very beautiful, seeing the way the thunder and lightning mixed and matched out there. I mean, it was kind of frightening yet elegant at the same time, electrifying, if you will. And I guess it was just because of the area, the location, the geography that made it that way. Really cool to see though. But I drove in and out of Aspen, and from Aspen I went towards the east side of Utah, and that's when I went to first time going through what's the name? Very popular spot. What was it? Can't think of the name, but it was on the east side of Utah. Very popular destination for driving around in national parks or state parks, hiking. Extremely scenic. So many like beautiful areas to see out that way. Well worth visiting. I wish I recalled the name, because it was just an awesome kind of small touristy town to visit for those who are into like the outdoors. But definitely would make it out to eastern Utah if you get the chance. After that, I made my way. I drove all the way through. And I'm not sure if I stopped through anywhere in Utah. I think I made my way to Arizona, and that's where I stopped by to see Horseshoe Bend. And I happened to go on a great day. I know it can vary depending on the weather, and if it's monsoon season or whatnot, but I went in like I said, in May. The weather was perfect, sunny, not too much, clouds in the sky, and just a beautiful river. That's Horseshoe Bend, one of the most immaculate sights I've seen in person. It's almost like the river, the way it flows, at least from perception-wise, the distance you are looking down, it's like a trance. It's like almost like it's moving, yet it's static at the same time. Hard to explain, but you just have to experience. You can see pictures online. There's some cool ones, but there's nothing like, for that particular site, like being in person. It's very, very visceral experience seeing Horseshoe Bend. And it's in a town called Page, Arizona. And Page, Arizona is another one of those kind of outdoor tourist towns. There's a lot of Indian reservations out there as well, that if you in advance book, you can get special tours onto those Indian reservations. So it's not one of those things where you just pop up and drive onto the land. You'll see a lot of those areas gated off, and the only way you're going to be allowed to come on is if you do one of those private bookings. So definitely worth looking into. And just driving around in Page, when you look at the sky, it's so so incredible to see. It's like time has frozen, and it gives you the opportunity to see this immaculate sunset, sunrise. So definitely worth getting out to. After that, I drove all the way to Arizona. I'm sure I stopped through some places, but I ultimately went to, I don't know, I think, was it either, I think Vegas was next, and then from Vegas I drove towards near Reno, and then from Reno I made my way back to California, and that's how I ended my trip. And that took about 1 month. 1 month solo road trip in the summer, and this was back in 2023. One of the most fulfilling experiences that I've ever had. Just the reason why to take those kinds of trips is, one, to just break up the monotony of your typical routine. Most of us, we're not too different from, our pet animals. If you have a pet dog or cat, they do the same 3 to 5 things every day. They sleep, they wake up, they use the restroom, they eat food, they come bother you, and then it's just rinse and repeat. They do the same thing every single day, right? We do the same thing too. We wake up, use the restroom, eat, go to work, come back home, sleep, rinse and repeat. And what this does is, at least if you have the time, and depending on the type of work you do, right, if you do have that freedom, especially if you're a remote worker. If you're not, then yes, obviously you're going to have to take some time off, whether you run a business or whether you work for an employer. But if there's an opportunity, whether it's for a week, ideally at least 2 weeks, but if you can do a month or longer, I don't know what it feels like longer. I'm sure it'll just be just as fulfilling, but a month was enough for me to hit a lot of those high points. And what you get, especially whether you go solo or with friends, I think both are great experiences, right? I think it comes down to your personality. Some people just prefer to have a more socialized experience, right? But for me, I'm indifferent. I'll be able to maximize both, right? It's fun to have another partner or a couple of friends with you, especially on the hikes and things like that, in terms of safety and just fun, joking, all the good stuff you can think of. But besides that, solo, I enjoy it as much as well because I can go at my own pace. It's the opportunity where it feels like time just slows down. You're able to really, for the first time, at least for myself, reflect, take time to think through things, gain clarity, right? And this is from a sober-minded aspect, right? Some people, you may be into hallucinogens or other types of things that alter your neurochemistry, and I'm not against that, but for me, it was a very sober-based trip, and within that trip, I was able to just get a lot more clarity into the next direction in life, while being able to really immerse myself into this visceral experience, seeing new things, exposing myself to new environments, the types of foods in the area, right? Just being in Wyoming, they have a lot of different types of meat out there, right? I was eating elk meat and some other different cuts of meat at the restaurant because it was all local, right? And that area has all kinds of animals there. So it gave me that opportunity to try something new. So I thought that was cool. Different types of people, especially, it's not common, especially people that might look like myself, right? If we're being honest, some people of color, especially if you're talking black people, which I'm half of, you're not going to see that many people like that in those parts of the US, if we're just being honest. But that shouldn't stop you. For me, I've always been pretty open-minded when it comes to socializing. I don't try to stick with one group or anything like that. And the way I grew up, especially being a military brat, I had to adapt to different environments, especially moving every few years, right? So that doesn't come as new news to me. I've typically been some form of minority in various groups, in all kinds of settings. So that didn't shock me. But what you will find surprisingly as you go through these places, especially someone that looks like myself, people are actually warm and welcoming, right? I mean, some of them are curious because they just don't see enough people of color in some of those areas. And I'm talking like Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, right? But people say they're not afraid to say hello, right? And the thing is, there's no reason to be apprehensive or feel scared, because some of those environments, because they're a little bit more homogeneous. There's mostly one type of group predominantly in those areas. There hasn't really been the need to consider a certain type of fear from other groups, because they haven't had to deal with that, right? So if one town has, let's just say 90% Caucasians, and then the rest is others, and they haven't really had any bad run-ins, why would they assume any type of fear or that something will go bad? They wouldn't. So that's why when they see you, it's not a shocking thing in terms of like, should I fear this person? Unless they've been heavily indoctrinated into, limited things they may have seen in the news or something. But besides that, they're just looking at you no different than they're looking at their fellow neighbor in town. So it's not unusual that you'll get a sense of welcoming when you do drive through these towns. Now, it doesn't mean that if you go through these wayward, off the path parts, that you might not run, that you may run into people that don't welcome you. But that's anywhere across the U.S. or across the world. You're always going to run into those kinds of people who tend to be the minority versus the majority in terms of types of people with that kind of mindset. It's usually a few folks, regardless of their ethnicity or background, that have that resistance, to change or openness, or they lack the openness to other groups. So my point, I guess, of all of that is to say, don't be scared to get out there, especially to these different types of places you wouldn't have initially considered, right? It's one thing to travel, and there's nothing wrong. Like we all have our preferences, right? There's certain cities we like to visit, but try seeing the rest of America. I mean, especially if you're a citizen here, you pay taxes. You pay taxes for a reason, and it's so that you can enjoy all of what this land has to offer. So don't, discount yourself. Don't hold yourself back from such an opportunity. You're paying into the taxes, so you're afforded the opportunity to go out and enjoy the land just like every tax-paying citizen here. So go to the national parks, go to the state parks, get outdoors, go see what it's all about, so that you can start to transform your mind of what is possible, of how might one live, right? A lot of us, we are mimetic creatures, right? We simply mimic what we see, who we see around us. That's why they say you're the average of the 5 people you hang around, right? You're most likely going to self-select into groups, self-select into opportunities, make similar types of purchases, or aspire to try to buy a car like your friend or family, or buy a home or like your friend or family member, or live in certain types of neighborhoods and cities because that's what you see around you, right? We're heavily influenced by those who are within our inner circle as well as external circles. But what traveling does in getting out, especially a road trip, in America, where you have to like feel every part of the way. It's not like you're in a flight, you're in New York 1 second, next second you're in London, right? You don't realize, I flew over all this body of water and 1,000 miles away. No, A road trip is more visceral. You're kind of physically immersed in the sense that you have to drive, you have to stop and get gas and get out of each, you know, city, town along the way, you know, and which forces you to have some type of reaction within each of those experiences. And travel exposes you to new types of people, people who think differently than you, or maybe the same, which may come to your surprise, and exposes you to new types of foods, new cuisines, new types of architectures, new animals, and all of these types of things, even new philosophies, maybe new religion. And they all influence and help shape your next thoughts and ideas, right? It can help gain inspiration or make you reconsider how your future may be in terms of living. You might go to a place like Montana and see how the homes are spread out in a somewhat rural fashion, but you see how much land there is, how big the homes are, and just the layout of the neighborhood. It may make you reconsider, like, hey, you know what? Like, I thought I wanted to live in the city, or I thought I wanted to be bunched up in these townhouses in California, but maybe I don't. Like, what I see right there, what that person has with that land in the backyard, the green grass, the mountainous backdrop, that looks a little bit more appealing, right? Or maybe it doesn't, right? Maybe it'll just reconfirm, wow, that's cool. The outdoors is cool, but maybe that's more of a every once in a while kind of thing, right? And vice versa. Maybe you're already living in kind of those rural towns or austere locations, or it's not to say that they're all like in these desolate environments, right? Like you go to Boise, Idaho, that's a full-fledged college town with homes and neighborhoods and everything, well developed, right? But maybe you just prefer that, the peace of mind there. And then once in a while, you might like taking your snowbird trips to Miami or to the Caribbean, right? So you obviously have to align it with your personality and your preferences, and design your life accordingly. With that said, I just highly recommend, if you have the opportunity, take a road trip at some point in your life. Don't delay. There's so much you can gain from it in terms of perspective when it's all said and done. It's a lot of, especially if it's a solo trip, a lot of alone time, or you can actually go with a friend or family members but still have your alone time within that trip, right? As you're on those long drives, opportunity to catch up on those long audiobooks you've been trying to catch up on, the podcasts. Like, I looked at that trip as an information gathering opportunity. Had multiple educational sessions on YouTube University, right? Lots of audiobooks from Audible that I went through on that trip. Lots of music that I got to catch up on that I hadn't gotten an opportunity to listen to for various artists. But besides that, all of the sightseeing, running into random people, you just never know how it could impact you or how you can impact others. One guy was asking me about just what do I do for work, or have I ever, I don't know how we got into the topic of the military, but in my previous life, I was in the Air Force, and this guy, he was there with his family, relatively young guy. I think he was in his 20s and early 20s. I think he already had a few kids, like 3 with him, and him and his wife was there, and I think he was considering joining the military already. And I was like, oh, well, how can I encourage you or inspire you even further? I think that would be great, especially considering your current circumstances, right? Like, looked like he was, work was drying up. He was in some kind of blue collar job. I don't know if it was construction or something, but work was drying up and he was looking for the next opportunity. And I was just in Twin Falls, Idaho, along one of these hikes, and you know, we just bumped into each other and we just had a conversation. And after I asked him, "Hey, you want me to take your picture?" I saw that they were trying to take a picture and looked like he probably wanted to get him and his family. And I just took it, and then from there, it just sparked conversation. And so, yeah, travel allows for those serendipitous moments to happen, right? Those random collisions. And yeah, I told him about how the military lifestyle can be beneficial in terms of benefits, and especially family life, medical care, and all that, and can act as a boost, initial boost to your life. But travel opens up the mind, and I can't implore it enough, right? Like, it's so many benefits to travel besides just the sightseeing. So I highly recommend it. And whether it's a road trip or whether it's traveling abroad or just traveling across the states, if you're US based, just get out there. Don't be so dormant. Shake it up a bit. And if you can't do that, try to get out locally. If you can go hiking, if you have hiking available, if you just have trails around, get out there, see what it's like. Just stumble into a town and see what might happen, right? I remember some years ago, I just saw a place on the map, and I was in LA, in Southern California, and I said, "Hey, I want to go outdoors somewhere and just stay a couple of days somewhere random." And I just pointed to this area called Palm Springs. I knew nothing about it, never even heard of it. I went down there and it was like this nice little hidden getaway, and I didn't realize, oh, this is like where Frank Sinatra, all the celebrities of the 1950s and people of the past used to get away to. And since then, it's been a major place for arts festival, film festival, Coachella music festival, right? And so you just never know what you'll discover. Like, and I end up going to Coachella not too long after that. So I say that to say, take the time to travel, and be open to what you might be able to discover. It's never too late. Don't make any excuses for yourself. It's easy. I know it's easy to just be lazy and say, no, just get up and go, right? And you'll be pleasantly surprised. Anyhow, that is all I have for now. If you have any questions, need any tips on road trip in terms of further details, just go ahead and leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to kind of talk about what I did in terms of how I packed, because I did have some camping equipment and gear. I even had a mini fridge that had a mini freezer in it. What else did I have? I had my external battery charger. It's one of those like $600-700 battery chargers that you can plug everything into, just in case everything you need to charge things up. I also had what else did I have? I had a solar panel charger as well. As I mentioned, all my camping gear, so that's sleeping bag. Because I did spend a few days or a couple of days camping, grilling meats, doing the whole camping experience. But I ended up switching to just staying at hotels because it was hard to get sleep. I would wake up in the middle of the night because it was so chilly, but I also had to use the restroom. So, because it was so cold, the insulation was limited. So it made my body have to quickly metabolize water, which made me need to go use the restroom. And after 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, it'd wake me up every night. So I was like, all right, I had enough of this, because the only way I'm going to enjoy this trip is if I get good quality sleep. And so I opted into the hotel experience shortly thereafter. That was when I left the Grand Tetons area in Wyoming. Anyways, that's it. That's all I have. Take care.